Hello and welcome to Culinary Boot Camp. Today we're going to be talking about chocolate. Chocolate comes from the dried, roasted, and ground beans from the pods of the cacao tree, which is a fruit tree. It's available in liquid form and solid form, as well as in a paste form. Chocolate goes back in human civilization pretty far. Chocolate was first discovered in what is now known as modern-day Mexico and is traced back to the ancient Mayans. To the Aztecs, chocolate was more valuable than gold. And Aztecs believed that they were gifted chocolate by the gods. Throughout most of history, chocolate was something that was mostly consumed and enjoyed by the wealthy, and consumed by the poor only on special occasions, such as holidays. In addition to eating chocolate for its enjoyment, it has been used as a source of energy, as well as an alleged aphrodisiac. Chocolate arrived in the United States via what is now known as Florida in 1641 via a Spanish ship. And then it arrived in Europe, also via the Spanish, in the 1500s. In 1828, a Dutch chemist known as Conrad Johannes van Houten discovered a way to treat cacao beans with alkaline salts to make a powdered chocolate that was easier to mix with water. And that is the process by which Dutch cocoa powder is named. In the culinary world, chocolate is used obviously in sweets, but it's also used in savory applications. One of the most common and popular applications being a mole, which is a Mexican sauce with a base made of cacao. When chocolate or cocoa is used in savory applications, it is the 100% unsweetened version that's used, so it's not the sweet kind. Chocolate adds a depth of flavor to dishes like chilies and savory sauces, and it can be paired with root vegetables. And as mentioned, is the key ingredient in making the Mexican sauce known as mole. Chocolate is not meant to be the dominant flavor in savory dishes, however. When melting a chocolate, it's important to make sure that no liquid gets in the melting chocolate, otherwise it will seize, which ruins the chocolate. Broken down into its many forms, chocolate is available in nibs, which are made from the dried fermented crushed cocoa beans, liqueur, which is not alcoholic, but is roasted and hulled cacao beans ground into liquid paste. Chocolate mass, also known as cocoa liqueur. Cocoa butter, which is the fat expressed from the dried fermented cocoa bean, which has a very low melting point. And then there's cocoa powder, which are the solids that remain after removing the fat from the dried and fermented cacao beans. A good chocolate should be glossy and free of discoloration. It should smell chocolatey with no unusual odors or hints of staleness. Chocolate should break without crumbling and should melt quickly and evenly when placed on the tongue. Unsweetened chocolate and some bittersweet varieties can be unpleasant to eat, as they'll melt much slower and contain much less sugar. There are many types of chocolate. The first is unsweetened chocolate. And unsweetened chocolate contains at least 53% cocoa butter. It's generally used as a baking chocolate and contains no sugar and is available in a variety of different forms. Bittersweet and semi-sweet chocolate contains about 35% mass plus added cocoa butter, sugar, flavorings, and occasionally emulsifiers. Within the bittersweet and semi-sweet category is a chocolate known as a couverture chocolate, and couverture chocolate is a high-quality version used by baking professionals. And sweetened chocolate has no less than 15% liqueur, which, as mentioned, is the roasted and hulled cacao beans ground into a liquid paste. Sweet chocolate, in addition to the 15% chocolate liqueur, contains sugar, milk solids, flavorings, and emulsifiers. Milk chocolate is made with cocoa solids, milk solids, sugar, and vanilla. Milk chocolate is also known as eating chocolate. White chocolate does not contain any cacao solids such as liqueurs or masses. It contains cocoa butter, sugar, milk solids, and some vanilla. Imitation chocolate, also known as compound chocolate, contains cocoa, vegetable fat, and sweeteners. The vegetable fat that they're using instead of cocoa butter is coconut oil or palm kernel oil. Probably don't even bother with imitation chocolate. When you have so many different varieties available that are made with much better ingredients than vegetable oils, I'd opt for something else. Many American chocolate brands use less cocoa solids than their foreign counterparts, which makes American chocolate a little not as good. In addition to not containing as much cocoa solids, American chocolate contains a lot more emulsifiers and fillers. Chocolate made in other countries usually have a better mouthfeel and richer taste than chocolate made in the United States. Cocoa is unsweetened chocolate in its ground form. Typically, most but not all of chocolate's cocoa butter is removed in order to keep the resulting cocoa free-flowing. There are a number of different kinds of cocoa on the market. The first is black cocoa, and black cocoa is a cocoa that is more heavily Dutched than usual, giving it a very dark color and intense flavor. Double Dutch cocoa blend is a combination of Dutch processed cocoa and black cocoa. Triple cocoa blend is a blend of Dutch processed cocoa, black cocoa, and natural cocoa. Bensdorp Dutch processed cocoa is a high-fat Dutch processed cocoa. Burgundy cocoa is a Dutch processed cocoa that lends baked goods an appealing reddish color. And then there's natural cocoa. Natural and Dutch processed cocoa can be used kind of interchangeably depending on what you're making, particularly if the recipe doesn't mention a type of cocoa. Though you may need to add some leaveners to the cocoa, either baking soda or baking powder. A 1-to-1 replacement between natural and Dutch processed cocoa can add undesirable flavors to your baked good, which include a subtle tanginess or slightly bitter edge to the flavor. And that's mostly when you're using natural cocoa, because natural cocoa is a little bit more acidic. And so baking soda is acid's opposite, or a base. Mixing an acid and a base also creates a chemical reaction producing bubbles. Until the late 20th century, most recipes for American bakers called simply for cocoa. And that's usually natural cocoa. Natural cocoa is treated with alkalizing agents to lessen its acidity, producing a smoother taste and darker color. Dutch processed cocoa doesn't need a leavener, as it includes baking soda and an acid and creates its own chemical reaction once the liquid is added. Cocoa contains polyphenols and antioxidants that help improve cholesterol and blood sugar levels and reduce the risk of heart disease. Cocoa powder is rich in theobromine, which helps to reduce inflammation and can protect you from diseases such as heart disease, cancer, and diabetes. The Ivory Coast, also known as the Côte d'Ivoire in West Africa, is the largest cocoa producer of the world, with more than 2 million tons of cocoa being produced a year. 70% of the fine upper class cocoa comes from Ecuador, while Ghana is the world's second largest producer of cocoa. Unfortunately, cocoa is not very environmentally sustainable and is very susceptible to climate change. Cacao trees only prosper under specific conditions, including fairly uniform temperatures, high humidity, abundant rain, nitrogen-rich soil, and protection from wind. In short, cacao trees thrive in the rainforest. The pesticides used by conventional cocoa farming are some of the most harmful pesticides used in agriculture. Direct exposure to these chemicals lead to long-term health issues for the farmers. Cacao versus cocoa. Cacao is the raw bean that is cold pressed into a powder or small pieces called nibs. Cold pressing maintains more enzymes, antioxidants, and nutrients, as well as separates the fat from the bean. So just like as mentioned in the video about fats and oils, heat destroys enzymes and nutrients when it comes to oils and fats, and that is why cold pressing is more desirable. Cacao is similar in flavor and bitterness to dark chocolate. Cacao that is ground into powder looks like cocoa, but retains the living enzymes and flavonoids. The fat extracted during the cold pressing is cocoa butter, which looks like chunks of white chocolate, but is a solid fat. Cocoa is made by roasting cacao beans, which destroys some of the live enzymes. Next, we're moving on to carob. Carob is a popular chocolate substitute for people who are health conscious and people who are environmentally conscious too. Carob is a brown powder made from a pulverized fruit of an Eastern Mediterranean evergreen, whose wood is also used as firewood. Portugal is the largest producer of carob, followed by Italy and Morocco. Carob is used for a number of health issues, and they include helping with diarrhea, I'm guessing preventing it, diabetes, pre-diabetes, persistent heartburn, obesity, athletic performance, and high cholesterol. But actually there's no good scientific evidence backing up health benefits of carob. Carob is available in powder, in chip form, as well as in molasses form. Carob is used for locust bean gum production, which is a thickening agent and a stabilizer used for replacing fat in low-calorie products, and is used as a gluten substitute. And carob is also used in treats for dogs, as chocolate is toxic to dogs. It's also used as an energy-rich feed for livestock, particularly the hoofed herbivores. Carob is also used as a syrup and in drinks. Carob is also caffeine-free. Carob can be substituted 1-for-1 for chocolate, but the taste will not be the same, and it will require much more sugar than cocoa. Also, carob chips do not melt the same way as chocolate chips, so they will not have the same texture within a cookie. Carob burns much faster than chocolate, so it's important to reduce the temperature of what you're cooking if you're using carob by at least 25 degrees Fahrenheit. A tablespoon of cocoa powder contains 12 grams of calories and 3 grams of carbohydrates with 1 gram of fat. Meanwhile, carob powders have 25 grams of calories and 6 grams of carbohydrates with hardly any cholesterol and fat. The amount of calcium in carob is 3 times that of cocoa. So carob has more calories and more carbohydrates than cocoa, but doesn't have as much fat. I guess all that leaves us with now is storage. And the best storage for chocolate is a cool, dark place under 70 degrees Fahrenheit or 21 degrees Celsius. The storage space should contain less than 55% humidity, and it should be stored away from anything that has a strong odor or a strong flavor, as chocolate tends to pick up and absorb smells very easily. Do not refrigerate chocolate. But if it must be refrigerated or frozen, such as the case in extreme temperatures, like if your house gets really hot in the summer and you don't have air conditioning, like me, then you should take the chocolate and you should wrap it really tightly and place it in a well-sealed container and make sure it doesn't get exposed to too much air. So as you probably note, the storage of chocolate is a little bit more particular than the storage of a lot of the other ingredients that we've talked about throughout this series. I'm sure there's a lot more I could have said about chocolate. If you have any questions or some cool chocolate related tips or chocolate related factoids, please leave them in the comments below. Thank you for stopping by my video today. And as always, have a wonderful day. Emulsifiers and fillers, making it I don't know, there's just no way, there's just no like nice way to say American chocolate sucks. But American chocolate sucks. Carob is not chocolate. I grew up eating a lot of carob. My mom owned a health food store, and it was not a lot of real chocolate. And I'm here to tell you, carob is not a replacement for chocolate. No, it's just not. I don't have anything else to say about